Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about the effects of COVID-19 on our business, providing us with a new business reality and why it poses a security triple threat, especially for small, medium-sized businesses. And we'll also give you some tips and advice for staying safe online, not only currently, but after COVID, because nothing will change. The threats are out there and they will be continuously ramped up and evolving. So next, let's see. Okay, there we go. So today we're going to cover the COVID-related cyber threats that are trending, what we see in our intelligence, and what its impact specifically is on business. And we will offer you ways to work more safely. And we're also going to think of digital security in a different way, or have you think about it in a different way, because it really needs a strategic approach and it needs your involvement and it needs you to think about it in terms of your business just the way you do marketing and finance. And we're also going to talk about the advantages of being proactive. So it's you in relation to how you use your software and approach your the cloud platforms you work with, as well as the advantages of adding on layered security that's specified for business email to protect your business and help you stay that much safer as you continue to work every day. So who is Guardian Digital? Well, we were founded in 1999 by Dave Resky, so we're over 20 years.
Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yes, there's Dave. And he has gained his experience as the UPS security architect responsible for the UPS.com portal. And he saw all the threats that were coming in and also reviewed how things could be done better and was able to develop a solution that really would tap the collaborative development, something called open source solution, and develop something that would be superb back 20 years ago and still today and functioning going forward for all the emerging and evolving threats. So specifically geared towards protecting email, because we're going to learn why email is such a target for cyber thieves. The great thing about our solution is that while it was developed for large-scale enterprise organizations, we've now have adapted it and can tailor it to small to medium-sized businesses. So it's enterprise-level business email cloud solution, but it's tailored to meet the needs of small to medium-sized businesses. And along with the solution, we bring our expertise. So it's a lot of support and not just the solution, and we'll talk about that going forward. Dave, did you want to add anything else?
No, I think that clarifies it. Yeah, our emphasis has always been on the level of support that we provide for businesses, to really do it properly without needing to have that expertise in-house. Normally that would be the responsibility of the business, either the admin or the technical contact within the business. But we're more than happy to help with any technical issues that you may have, with ensuring the security and safety of your staff. And we'll talk more about that as we go on.
Okay, so what we're going to start with today is really understanding COVID-19's impact on our business environment and what it means for us as we work remotely and on cloud solutions. And what are the cybersecurity trends we've been seeing with the impact of COVID-19, and particularly how it has impacted us in business and as small, medium-sized businesses in particular. So what is our new normal? Well, we have shifted to working remotely, and it seemed to have happened overnight once COVID-19, it became clear what a deadly threat it was. But it actually was starting to build a decade ago, back in 2012, where few of us did work remotely, and then gradually increasing. I like to think of it as Starbucks had all their stores opening up and it was a cushy environment to work in with access to free internet. So we started working in places like that more remotely. But during this crisis, for sure, tens of millions, or almost all of us, started working at home or outside the office. And that constituted a big shift into how we work and what it means. And it's a trend that's likely to continue. Google and other large-scale companies have already indicated that the majority of their workers will stay working remotely through July of 2021 at least. The shift to working remotely also means we are now on cloud-based platforms. And what does that mean? We are using cloud platforms because they are able to store and access data and give us far more than we can get when working on a hard drive. It gives us cutting edge technology. It allows for conveniences like never before in terms of even this Zoom meeting and being able to do webinars so easily and accessing information from other sources and so forth. But does it really mean better data protection? There's an assumption on the part of many that when we move to a cloud-based solution, that it comes inherent with a lot of safety and security, and that is not necessarily so, and we're going to really explore that going forward. In a 2020 survey, a recent survey of 1,000 US-based decision makers, actually half of them have seen an increase in email phishing attacks. I'm going to talk about phishing and what to look for in a phishing attack, and they actually do expect a breach. Nonetheless, most executives are going to continue to work on cloud platforms. Is almost like no choice because of all the functionality and the features that are offered. And so they're going to accelerate the move 100 to 100% of cloud platforms in the near term future. So shifting to remote and cloud, was digital safety left behind? And these are the things that we are going to be talking about as a theme. So were firewalls installed or updated? Was the laptop, PC, or Mac dedicated to work only? The more people that you have, more users on a laptop just opens up the doors for other things to come in and malware to come in from a different source when you are not having a particular PC or Mac dedicated, to the business company URL. And also, there's this other assumption that Macs are no longer vulnerable, are not vulnerable, but they are vulnerable as well as the PC is today. So that's why we talk about them together. If you're on the internet 24/7 and you're not as vigilant as you might be or should be for looking at your emails, and the distraction that we're facing because it's an uncertain environment with COVID-19, where it's going to go, will there be a vaccine, how soon can we start congregating again without masks? These are all things that prey upon our situations and make it a little bit nerve-wracking, and cyber thieves unfortunately know that too. And did we take on new cloud platform services? Well, certainly we did. I mean, Zoom just came out of the woodwork and we're all on it now. But were they set up correctly, and are we safe on them? So all the services that we use, where if we use email services from Google and or Microsoft, that's cloud. Project management tools like Slack, Teamwork. So a lot of the audience should know all of these platforms. CRMs, a lot of the smaller companies now, if not taking on Salesforce, are taking on HubSpot, Fresh Sales, and other equivalent CRMs like them, and then financial tools like DocuSign and TurboTax. All of these are cloud-based services. So you are on the cloud when you're using any of these tools. And hopefully there's some levity in knowing how to upload files to the cloud. It doesn't exactly mean shooting them off with, boxes of stuff up there. So what do we mean about security? In 2019, there was a recognition by most businesses that there needed to be concern for security for cloud services. And that a fourth of these businesses actually had experienced some kind of an incident in a year ago. So this is even pre-COVID. And the incidents that they experienced resulted in data that was exposed, or malware infecting the computer system, or business email accounts that were compromised. And we're going to go through what that means, because that could be a deadly situation when any of these things happen, let alone a business email compromise. So cloud services, they're very convenient. We use all of them all the time in our daily business, but there are multiple risks too. They're very large and they're complex to secure. They actually need experts to do so. And what's also maybe unknown is that cloud service providers actually write in many of their contracts when you work with them that it's the company's responsibility to understand the security implications. And while there is security provided by cloud services, it's not nearly enough, or you wouldn't have the kinds of things you hear in the news all the time about ransomware and breaches by the large to medium and even smaller size companies that happen on a daily basis. So extra security and due diligence on your part on how you use these systems is absolutely needed. And as you can see by the numbers below, over 40%, so 4 out of 10 have indicated that there's unauthorized access to systems when it's not secured properly. There's insecure interfaces, so clouds talking to other cloud services. Those are gaps where cyber thieves can come in and exploit weaknesses. And then there's misconfiguration or the wrong setup for your organization. So the trends that our intelligence have seen is that, unfortunately, phishing attacks have increased enormously since the pandemic really started. So we saw an increase immediately of 250% between March and April. And in the last few months, there have been estimates that it's escalated to as much as 600%. So it's almost who hasn't seen a phishing email in their inbox. And the number one malware tactic that's provided through phishing is actually these Office macro-enabled documents, so Excel files that come with something. So there's an attachment, an Excel file, you think it's real, you click on a macro-enabled tool, and it releases malware onto your system. So it's a very popular adverse effect from cyber thieves that are out there. And one of the other things that has come up is credential theft. I mean, that's always been something that cyber thieves have looked for, but again, during the COVID-19, it's never been bigger than before to steal credential thefts and have it waiting to either sell back into the black market or use at a convenient time to obviously steal money and all kinds of other things. A lot of this credential theft is obtained through advanced social engineering. So companies that you work with or that you subscribe to, say like Amazon or Verizon or whatever, you'll see an email that you might think is from them, but actually it's mimicking their branding, and it will use language that is familiar to you if you're HR or hospital. That's so cyber thieves know that much detail about you, or even IT. IT has been taken advantage of as well. And so you'll see this, and it will be something that's really trying to be dramatic and try to get your attention that you need to do something immediately and get on and unfortunately give your credentials up. So that is social engineering. Ransomware gangs, unfortunately, have also stepped up their attacks, and payouts have increased up to 33% in just 3 months' time. So the insecurity, what does it mean for you? Attackers have basically exploited existing malware campaigns. They've exploited it in the name of COVID-19. So, and they've monetized these to a point where they, it's become big money for them. And while we've been given opportunities through the government, through PPP loans and other access to money, the cyber thieves have looked to get at them too. And so it's just something that a vulnerability that we all have to realize. And whereas Homeland Security has provided alerts and FBI has provided alerts, that these cyber criminals are pivoting also to get at these lures and so forth. And Office 365, very popular from Microsoft, where a lot of companies are now switching to that. But if you deploy it very quickly and it's not deployed in the correct way with other safety features installed, it becomes open to cyber thieves in a way like not not before. So these are all things to think about as what's happened with COVID-19 and the advantages that cyber thieves are taking upon our seeking data related to COVID-19, as well as our seeking out loans and financial support. The cyber thieves are doing the same. So cloud-based platforms are not secure for a large number of reasons, but some of it has to do with the fact, or a lot of it, is that email is our #1 communication tool, and more than 90% of all attacks come through email. So therefore, cloud-based platforms like Microsoft, like Google, become #1 targets by cyber thieves. Often too, if you don't set it up correctly with an IT person who really knows what they're doing and adds in extra security, you're opening up the door again to these cyber thieves. And as many as 10 different strains of ransomware have been seen by experts who study this at any time. So cloud systems are great, but they are prone to misconfiguration, who has access to them, so it increases the vulnerabilities in the platform. And when it does, millions of accounts at the same time could possibly be affected. Case in point, just in the last few days, it's been established that Microsoft had an open gate for Windows, and they've known about it, a security flaw, for the past 2 years, but they didn't actually do a patch for it until last week. So security is not foremost on the minds of a Google and or a Microsoft. It's not that they don't have it, but what they want to sell you on is all their other features and benefits of email and documents and so, creation and so forth. And security kind of follows after the fact. So, and speaking about Office 365, these are the reasons why it is really highly vulnerable. It actually doesn't provide additional protection against emerging threats. And threats are always evolving and they're always emerging. That's how sophisticated the attackers are out there. So it can't handle when complex spear phishing attacks come through the system. There's no gateway or solution embedded in Microsoft to handle this. And when it does do things or sees things, or our users point out to them, the protection is given is updated retrospectively. And that was the example that I just provided in the previous slide. It does not have a mechanism to detect spam from previously unknown sources. So it can't detect if the URL is real or not when it comes into your system. And that's where really you need an evolved or an advanced email solution to help do that. And we talk about it here because it is the #1 email cloud-based target. It is a cyber thief favorite. Microsoft has 70% share, so it's a great product, but it does need support in terms of solution. We have an e-guide. We have a great e-guide to help with Office 365 security concerns and how to fix them. And we've posted the URL for you to, to download it from our site. So what are signs that a COVID-19 email or any email is a phish or a phishing attempt? It's one that has content that plays on fear and urgency. You need to do something straight away. There's money that needs to be moved. It may be that you think it's coming from someone you know, a boss or a senior member of the firm, and there's nothing there to block it if you don't have other protocols in place. So it plays on fear and urgency, and it's usually requesting you to do something, provide credentials, personal or financial information. It may use an unfamiliar greeting that if you don't really stop and look and say this isn't real, you could be caught in something. The email address is sketchy or questionable, and it may often contain, or usually does, spelling or grammatical errors. But if you don't check for that, you could be caught in phishing attempts. Again, if you click on a link, you provide credentials, you're providing it to a source that is not kosher per se, or where you don't want to go. And Dave is going to provide some examples of that going forward.
Yes, this is an example of an email, a phishing attack email that you might see on a pretty regular basis. You know, it preys on our anxieties related to COVID. And as you see here, this purports to be from the WHO, but you'll notice that the reply to address is a regular Gmail address. So that should be the first sign that something is uh, not accurate or not correct with this, and that instead it's someone really trying to prey on our anxieties surrounding this. You know, really look as we're all, you know, concerned about COVID and anticipating information. We may actually be anticipating information from the WHO or you know, the FDA or the SBA regarding our health advice or something that, you know, we're waiting on that we should be acting on. But in fact, when you click on that link, it takes you to a rogue website that may look like the WHO, where it then harvests your credentials, your login information for, you know, a real WHO site or a real SBA site or you know, something pertaining to the PPP, for example, and then uses that information to actually log into your remote, you know, your real PPP account, and you know, funnel your information out to you know, to someplace else. So this is another example that preys on our anxieties surrounding COVID. You'll see that you know, the subject is something about PPP cares, which is a real thing. So if it happens to be received by someone who is actually anticipating that information, you might think that this is, you know, real, and not actually spend the time to really evaluate what's really occurring here and see that, you know, the sender was someone from another site, not from the actual government. And, you know, number three is pointing out that this is occurring around a time when we're all, you know, seeking information about COVID and funding and PPP. So, you know, it may look normal, especially if we've never seen, you know, what a legitimate email has looked like before to compare against. So number four is, you know, a fileless attack where basically you just click that link and it takes you to a page that looks like a PPP page. And again, if you haven't done this before, you may not necessarily know what a legitimate PPP page would look like. And then you would enter in your credentials, maybe your bank information, you know, maybe your social security number, and then that information is then sold on the dark web and or used to steal your credit or you know, affect your credit in some way. And then finally, you know, number five is really creating a sense of urgency that if you don't act within 3 days, you know, you're going to lose out on this funding. And everybody knows, you know, what that's like with what we've seen on the news in terms of, you know, funding shortages and everyone, you know, signing up for these programs, you know, quickly. So, you know, no real surprise that there would be a sense of urgency around that as well. So this one is another coronavirus phish, and you know, coronavirus attacks are the vast majority of really what the phishing attacks are these days. It varies between the number one and number two type of attack, with you know, business email compromise and ransomware also being significant attacks these days. But the real notable info on this one here is that it's from someone named Karen. It's actually from a Berkshire Hathaway subsidiary that one of our systems received. And you'll see that, you know, in number two, it's talking about a familiar cloud service called OneDrive that Microsoft offers to, you know, to upload and share files. And business people use that, you know, constantly to share confidential information and, you know, business information, account statements, etc. So that's also something that's going to be comfortable to someone receiving this email. And number three, you know, we'll see it's another fileless malware attack that either clicking on that link will download a file to your local system that you'll then click on and start running some local malware infecting your machine, or redirect you to a website where you fill in your confidential details, and then that's then used against you in some way in the future. And sometimes even after a few failed attempts at entering in your credentials, it will actually redirect you to the real SBA site or, the real PPP site, where you'll enter your account information again and get logged in, and you'll never even know that you were ever a victim of a phishing attack. So then in number 4, we see that Karen's a paralegal. She's not the CFO or the CEO, or even an attorney with any type of authority. But really, every person within the organization has a role to play in these phishing attacks, and Karen might be the one who's responsible for, updating the payroll information, or sending this information to the CFO, which then creates a trust relationship between Karen and Julie, the CFO, who knows Karen and trusts the information that she's forwarding on. So really, in number 5, it has her regular signature in it. So this was actually Karen's account that was compromised. That's happening here. This isn't, a spoof or a parody account or a simulation of Karen's account. This is actually Karen's account that was compromised and now is sending information and emails out to people within her own organization, as well as people in her address book that trust Karen and know that, generally speaking, Karen sends, trustworthy information that needs to be acted upon. So in the rush of the daily craziness that we all experience, you may be quick to click on that link and fill out the information and get it back to Karen so you can get, so you can leave for the day, or, as you head out for the weekend, or, you've just finished talking to Karen about, a document that she was going to be sending you, and it just so happens to come in at the right time. So really, we need to take a breath and think about, the things that we're clicking. Make sure that we're looking at the real information within the body of the email, and verifying, thinking about where those those links are taking us, and whether it makes sense, whether what Karen is sending us really makes sense. And so, this is part of the training and understanding that Guardian Digital can help as well as protecting you from these attacks in the first place.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, so what we're going to talk about going forward is the need to be more strategic and proactive on our digital safety. You've already seen some examples of how serious the threat is to all of us at all different levels. If you are sitting on data, if you're working on cloud systems, you are vulnerable, and the cyber thieves love it. And we're going to focus in on email, because email is critical to everything we do and how we communicate. And we use it, and cyber criminals love that we do. And it's actually the number 1 vector, which I think we've already discussed, that it's over 90%, attacks come through email. So it's the number 1 vector that is targeted by cyber thieves. And if unguarded, the costs of a breach, which we will review, are significant. So you need to think of you and your staff, your users, and you need to be on defense actually all the time that you're on email and on cloud-based systems. So let's think about business email. It really is your brand and your reputation. It's how you converse with your clients. You write proposals. It's your documentation to the outside world, but it's also an open door to phishing attempts and ransomware attacks. So even in the last few years, so pre-COVID, 90% of organizations experienced some sort of business email compromise. That was 2019 finding, and so forth. So cyber criminals, they take advantage of our distracted behavior, our concerns for the present and the future. And the working remotely brings the new security risks if your system and your solution if your system is not fully protected, and if you as the user are not aware of what you need to be doing in terms of checking emails. A lot of these terrorists or cyber thieves are internationally state-sponsored, and as Dave has pointed out in the examples, they're really using the pandemic as a cover for digital reconnaissance and espionage. but they've been doing it for decades now. They've just upped the ante, and they have something very much specific or to focus on. And that is the big difference as to why there's been an exponential increase in phishing attacks across, especially the United States. The United States is the #1 country for cybercrime. So what does our threat landscape looks like? What do we need to defend in our modern email world? Well, it's phishing, and there's different types of phishing. There's business email compromise, malware, unsolicited spam, computer viruses, zero-day attacks. That's something where there's nothing known before comes into your system, so it's quite scary. There's no preparation for it, but solutions can handle it, like what Guardian Digital does have. And then there's ransomware, and we're going to show some examples of that. So specifically thinking about ransomware in relation to small and medium-sized businesses, ransomware is a type of malware that's designed to block access to PC and Mac. So all your data, all your files, they're blocked. And the only way to get them, it's the key, and the key is held by the criminals, and you need to pay out. The average price or the average cost of ransomware is $84,000. And actually, I think that's overnight been doubled or tripled from things that we've been reading and seeing. And the third do wind up paying up. But unfortunately, 60% or 6 out of 10 small to medium-sized businesses, this hit with the ransomware, it's just such a costly thing that businesses fold, because it's not just the money or the payout, it's all the money that's needed to fix the business going forward, and in your damage to your reputation, etc. And we're going to see this in a real world case coming up. So this is Virtu Financial, is a high-speed trading firm, and they're headquartered in New York with a couple of branches here in New Jersey. So it's a locally based company, and they suffered a compromise of their email system, and it resulted in nearly $7 million in losses. How did this happen? This is the scary thing. You can actually be attacked weeks, months in advance, sometimes as long as a year. The attacker sits on the network, and it listens, and it watches, and it waits, and it looks to see how the transactions look, what's the dialogue, who in the hierarchy is bigger than the other person, and then at the right time for the attacker, the account changes are made, and fraudulent emails are sent, and transfer of funds happen lightning quick before you can recover them. In this case, it went to a bank in China. And so the other cost considerations for this firm is not just the money that was lost, but it's the productivity that's lost, the trust from consumers in their business, and then the expenses that had to be taken on to bring in an IT consultant and to do forensics on the system so that you can clean it out and make sure it doesn't happen again. And on top of everything, for this particular firm, the cyber insurance carrier refused to pay or cover their losses, and now there's a lawsuit between the two companies. Most companies, small to medium-sized businesses, cannot afford all of the things that can happen if they're not digitally protected. So it is a haven out there for cyber thieves. Again, we've estimated that 600% increase in the last several months of phishing campaigns, specifically due to COVID-19. And unfortunately, it's been estimated that 1 in 10 employees will click on a malicious link, and it causes all these things: account compromise, data theft, loss of credentials, financial loss, damage to a brand and company's reputation, lost productivity because you've got to fix it all and close it down. And businesses have been closed sometimes for not just days, but weeks. You have to think about what that cost is to your business. And unfortunately, 6 out of 10 businesses do ultimately close because they can't, it's just too high a price to pay. So what are the best practices in protecting your email that Guardian Digital advocates? Well, we want you to be on the lookout for spoofed email addresses and names. Does the sender address match the company name format? You know, what are there differences? These are the things that you do need to look for as you're working on email. You do need to refrain from clicking through links embedded in email messages. So you need to kind of form a bit of distrust with your own email system. And you need to avoid opening, attachments, especially if it's an email you don't know. And if you have any kind of suspicion, you really should just absolutely throw it out or check it by a different source. Phone works really well in this case. So you are the one who has to be on guard for these phishing emails that prey upon your emotions and are looking for your credentials, and so forth. And you want to make sure your operating system and what security you are using in terms of endpoint security, like a McAfee, like a Norton, it needs to be kept updated and patched at all times. And we are going to look at that even further down the road. So thinking of digital security and all the things that we've been talking about how unsafe it really is out there for your business, in terms of working remotely, working on clouds, not being proactive, is a need for you to be strategic and to be proactive and to think of yourself as being on defense every time you're on email, day in and day out. And we're going to talk about a review of the safety tips for being working more safely remotely on cloud-based systems. There are ways to be even more proactive, which is a purpose-built email solution. There are advantages that you're not in it alone and that you're working with a security team and a solution that's been out there for 20 years that successfully protected other companies that could also protect you. And you do need to start thinking of digital security as a process. It's not that you just take a product and you put it on your system and you don't think about it. You still need to think about it. You still need, phishing emails will get through. Those are things that endpoint security like Norton and McAfee do not stop. They will not stop the phishing attacks. They'll protect you from when you're doing your internet searches and so forth, but emails will still get through without added security. Your eyeballs plus a solution that's specific for business email. So just a review of the threat landscape. All these things could come in that needs defense against phishing, business email compromise, malware, all the way down through ransomware. We've talked about what you need to do, which is your eyeballs, you on defense, being on the lookout for these phishing emails, for emails that you don't recognize, for emails that are asking for credentials and have an urgency about them, asking for money. You think they may be coming from someone, you need to check the address. Is it coming from a Gmail against the brand that's a signature file? So all these things need to be checked and looked for. Is the spelling and grammar correct? And many times there are these types of errors. And really, when in doubt, just throw it out and move on, or really look to test it if it's real through a phone call. So staying safe while working remotely. Again, we can't say it enough. You have to be on guard. You have to look for the phishing and ransomware and other email-borne attacks. You need endpoint security, but you can't really rely on it alone, because again, it will not stop the phishing attacks from coming into your inbox. But it should be updated and actually tailored for your particular hardware and your solution needs, and actually scan 24 hours. So Norton, McAfee, there's a lot of good endpoint security solutions out there. It's important to have a VPN to encrypt your data between you and your server, and not just the free kind, because free is free and will not have enough solution or safety solution in it to really protect you. And then you should have email authentication provided, so to mitigate spoofing and business email compromise. It's really important to understand that it's coming from the right source. And those are things that a solution on top of what you personally can do would help you out with. Multi-factor authentication, again, anybody who's asking for any credential information, like providers you work with, AT&T, Microsoft, or whatever, if they're not asking for or sending you that code number, via a different source like your cell phone, it's not something you should give away or and get on the phone or go onto their website directly. So recognize all these things that could be coming through, looking to get at your credentials and get at your finances, get at your company finances. And it's important, if you can, to reserve the business computer for business only. The more users on it, the more open gateways. So we're updating our thinking as we're updating, having our solutions or our security solutions in place. As they update, we need to update our thinking about working on the cloud and email security. It is a process, it's not a product. This is important to think about as you do marketing, finance, and now business email security. It's essential. The thieves out there are not waiting for you. You know, they will attack at any time, you know, 24/7, and they are very sophisticated. It's big business for them. So it's not stopping anytime soon, even if we do hopefully solve COVID-19 straight away or as quickly as possible. At Guardian Digital, we do think of security as a process, and we think of it as a partnership with our clients. And we're there to provide our expertise as well as a solution and help them navigate this threat landscape far more securely than they can do on their own. And how do we do it? Or we do it two different ways, which is we have our multi-layered solution to protect email. We tailor this enterprise level solution for the small to medium sized business to meet your needs and to also protect your company IP as well. So it's your business email, your company IP, and we do so, we offer our expertise on a 24/7, 365 full-time basis. So we regard ourselves as being on the front line of the cyber war day in and day out. We've been doing so for over 20 years now. So even though we've been hit hard with COVID, we've protected all our clients without any incident, and we'd like to hopefully offer that solution going forward to others. So what we offer is end-to-end protection against the phishing, the ransomware, all of the different theft targets that can come into the inbox, malware and so forth. We block the advanced threats prior to reaching the inbox. So actually what we do is our solution scans all the email, does it in real time, and only sends forward what is a legitimate email and blocks what isn't, protecting you and your inbox from malware and from other dangerous attempts to get at your information. We do so by helping, we set up protocols, we understand your patterns in advance, what the email patterns are, we set up protocols. That also helps fine tune the solution to meet your company needs. And we understand each company is different, and that's why we work with each company specifically hand in hand to tailor our solution to them. It's not a one size fits all, and it is indeed a process and a relationship we understand or we build with you to understand how your patterns work, who your expected senders and recipients are for your business. And we work with all the existing mail systems, so Google, Microsoft, all of them. So basically our solution is layers and layers of defense, and it's multi-tiered architecture, and it has multi-tiered security policies. So those are the policies of the protocols, again, working with you to understand what meets your needs for your business, who you're doing email with, who you're not, not expecting, who are your clients, those kind of things. We understand, and we will work with you to tailor specific policies and put them in place. We can guard against 0-hour outbreaks, so meaning that's from out of nowhere, something comes that there's no specified solution at hand, but our solution actually can block these. We anticipate these day in and day out, and we're prepared for them today and going forward for tomorrow. We offer secure endpoint encryption, so that's how we do protect your IP. We have multiple antivirus engines and spam filtration technologies, and we are very passionate about our expertise and sharing that with our clients and hopefully with anybody who would like to work with us in the future. And we do so on a 24/7, 365 basis.
This is all technology that we've been developing over the last 20 years and evolving with businesses, and believe it's very effective in addressing these concerns.
So the ultimate advantage to you is, greater peace of mind, because it's hard to be just you, the user, even with a Norton and some endpoint security, guarding against your email. There's so much going on. So our strategy for staying digitally safe as we come to a conclusion of this webinar is really you need to be diligent about who uses your business computer. You can make it only for business, that would be helpful. Think of it like washing your hands. Review your emails. Think about what's coming into your inbox and anything that's COVID-19 related, but not just COVID-19 related, because phishing attacks came before COVID. Obviously, they're absolutely heightened during it, and they'll continue afterwards because it's a big business on the other side of the fence with cyber thieves. So if they're requesting information, there's urgency, they're inviting you to a meeting, and it's not something you recognize, please don't automatically click. Think of it like wearing a face mask in public. And then where you can, you really should add in layered defense for business email security, because it's just an enormous help. And it's, think of it like keeping a distance of 6 feet or more. You know, it's like placing Guardian Digital between you and cloud-based cyber attacks, because it's hard, just as the end user alone, to scan for phishing emails and so forth day in and day out. And you'd be surprised how often this happens when you're not protected on a daily basis, weekly basis, and just clicking on the wrong thing could just get you and your company in a lot of you know, trouble that you don't want to be in. So anything you can do to avoid it is really something in your interest. So final thoughts, cybersecurity, it's just not an issue for the big business, despite that you've heard all the breaches going forward, with, you know, from hotels to finance companies, etc. It happens to smaller companies too, so it's a legitimate concern for all of us. COVID-19 has heightened that. Staying digitally safe really does mean you being proactive as the end user, and you need to cultivate a culture of awareness around these threats. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of them, and they're not going away anytime soon. Big business out there, and you do need to implement the proper protection and guidelines so that you stay digitally safe. So again, think of it.
We're also seeing now phishing attacks related to the election coming up, and you know, fraud there. So they're basically just reusing the existing platform that they've built to shovel out this ransomware and this you know, malware onto their existing platform that's in place in various networks around the world with a new face on it. And this time, you know, related to not only COVID but you know, the election and all the confusion surrounding that as well.
Okay, so I think that takes us to the end, and we're happy to entertain questions.
Okay.
So I will stop sharing my screen, I guess.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Betty and Dave. Very, very informative. A lot of information was given out. And does anybody in the audience have any questions? The one that came in before, oh, okay, Dave has already done it, was actually...
Someone had asked about the website where they can go to get more information and how to secure their email. And our corporate website is just guardiandigital.com. From there, you'll find our resource center with dozens of articles and helpful infographics and PDFs on how to stop spam and address and understand what phishing attacks are, and ransomware, and how you can protect, you know, your users. There's also links there to our ebooks and one on Office 365 security and what you need to do to protect yourself there as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. Anybody else have any questions for Dave or Betty? Well, I don't see anything else coming in. So this was very, very informative.